I'd like to welcome everybody, but in particular a number of new members who are here for the first time today, and so it's going to be a whole, I hope, positive experience for you. I just to start proceedings, like maybe just to briefly take stock of where we are as a convention at this stage. You know, we were established under an Oireachtas resolution of July 2012, which essentially defined what the Oireachtas wished us to do. We were given 8 particular tasks, 8 aspects of the current constitution to examine, and then we were asked that when we had completed that task of examining those 8, we could look at such other relevant constitutional amendments that may be recommended by it. So, in other words, any other business. So, we've already done 5. We did 2 of the issues in the first weekend in January, we did 2 in the second weekend in February, and we did 1 in April. So 5 out of the 8 we have considered. Now, and also I would have to say, as we've gone through these debates, we've been noting on the side issues that we might come back to under, if you like, our any other business. So we've now reached what probably is one of the largest and most complex topics we've been asked to consider, electoral reform. And it is a large task, and I mean, our crucial role is to decide what parts of electoral reform we wish to focus on in particular. And that's really a central purpose of this weekend. And having narrowed things down somewhat this weekend, we'll consider some aspects in more detail in the next weekend in June. Now, just in terms of, you know, trying to reflect on this and trying to have a frame within which to start our work, I was brought back to, I think, our original purpose as a convention. And I think the basic question we've been asked to consider in the different aspects of the Constitution we've been looking at are, you know, how relevant is the current words and articles of the current Constitution to today's Ireland and to the Ireland of the future? And that, I think, do the words and the articles in our Constitution reflect our values as a country? Do they provide the best possible framework for our legislators to draft our laws and our courts to interpret them? That's, I think, what we're essentially about. And that, I think, is also how we need to approach this debate on electoral reform over the next day and a half. The current electoral system is essentially the same one that was instituted with the 1922 Constitution. And many people value this system and feel and strongly support it. And there have been 2 proposals in the lifetime of this state to change it, and the people rejected those proposals on both occasions, in 1959 and 1968. But there are other views about it. Other people point out some of the weaknesses as they see it, the excessive tendency to localism, perhaps not enough focus on big national issues. Does it produce the right people with which to, who end up in Parliament and end up in our cabinet? So what we've tried to do here in putting together this weekend is bring to you, yet again, I think, the very best expertise we have in the country to consider this. And we're going to start with a panel of 3. With Murish McCarthy, who's going to speak on the role of...
Chairman,
yes?
I wonder if I could ask a question at this stage. Because I understand there is some correspondence, and I wonder if and when you'll be alerting the members to this. I understand that the group, including Mike McDowell, Joe Toole, President Captain Pole, have written to us asking that we should look at the question of reform of the Senate, because if we do, I raised this in the beginning, and I also raised the question to the President, we managed to broaden that, and I think that was very important. I think it would be very odd if we were precluded from doing what is suggested in that communication, and I have copies of it. I understood they were to be distributed to everybody. Ex-Senator O'Toole told me this. If we were only allowed to discuss it after the referendum had already abolished the Senate. That, I think, most people would agree is a little bit silly. And we're talking about the abolition of the Oireachtas. Thank you. We're talking about the abolition of the Oireachtas because the Oireachtas is composed of the two houses. So if you abolish the Oireachtas, surely that is the most significant change in the Constitution, which you rightly said we would be considering. So could I ask you if it is possible for the document, which I think has not been circulated, but copies of which I have here, to be circulated, and maybe we could have a discussion 10 minutes, 15 minutes after lunch, when people maybe have an opportunity to read this over lunch, just to make a simple request that we write to the government, we ask you, Chairman, to write to the government and ask them to consider, in the light of the fact that it will not be possible to reform the Senate once it's abolished. We have this vast change in the Constitution, changing 75 articles of the Constitution. And in the light also of the bill published yesterday, which would give the government the power to impeach the President and compel him to attend an inquiry of Dáil, and give them the power to suspend or dismiss judges, including judges of the Supreme Court. Those are very sweeping powers. And if the Senate, I have the bill here, Deputy Flanagan, I can show it to you. And I can show you, they've very carefully concealed what's in it, but I know what's in it, and I've read it. And I can give it to you at lunch as well. I think the people of Ireland are entitled to the opportunity just to ask the government, will they allow us to discuss this before the Senate is abolished? Because this is such an important body, and I've learned so much from the representatives of the people at the tables I've been at during the previous weekend, that I think we would all benefit from this, and it would be an exercise in democracy. So I don't want to disrupt this morning's meeting at all, but if we could make that arrangement, just to distribute this information and then have a quick vote, maybe people would say, no, we don't want to be touching it.
Yeah,
but if they did, then they could ask you to write to government, and all they need to do is write government and say, can we please either postpone the referendum until after the Constitutional Convention has discussed the matter, or allow us to discuss it before the Senate is abolished. Thank you very much for your indulgence, Chairman.
Thank you. Well, as you say, this is a matter that has been raised with me. I didn't want to take this matter at the very beginning of the meeting because I think it runs the risk of, if you like, taking a life of its own, and I think we need to put it in context. And there is a context which I would be very happy to share with the rest of the convention. But I think at this moment of the meeting, I would propose that we proceed to the experts, and that we could perhaps deal with this matter in the session immediately after lunch.
Thank you very much. And have you permission to allow the delegates to have a look at the documentation? I have copies of it here. Because I think it's better if they're informed.
Yes, I think so, yeah. Okay. So could I now move on to the opening presentation? As I was saying, it's Murish McCarthy who will speak on the role of the Parliament and the Executive, Dr. Niamh Hardiman who will speak on the Irish system of policy development, and Professor Michael Marsh who will speak on Irish public opinion and debates over electoral reform. Murish, thank you.